If I was a teacher in today's world and the parents that you have to deal with, that
And that's
there's just there's no accountability anymore.
Right.
Kids can do whatever they want. And when they know that, they react or they act a certain way. And if a teacher reacts in any way, in a negative way, they have the parents down their throat wondering, why is my kid failing? Why is it? There's just no accountability.
This episode is sponsored by Southern Utah Safe and Vault. It's one-stop shop, buy, education, delivery, everything you need with the safe or a vault door. Website is safesfirst.com. Their showroom is 1397 West, Sunset Boulevard, number 115 in St. George, Utah. Phone number is 435-767-7878. Hey guys, welcome back to the Derick Macrae podcast. We are in the vault again, and I failed to ask Mallory what episode this is. 113?
Correct.
113. Episode 113. We have the social media mayor of Southern Utah in today. This is Macrae Heppler. How's it going, man?
Going good. How about you?
You're everywhere on social media, dude, so I think it's hilarious, man. I just assume one of these days you'll just run for mayor and just make it official.
I get joked about that a lot, but it's not anywhere near my plans of my future being the mayor.
Things turn, man.
I get that, but I know what the mayors go through, and I just don't think. I don't know. We'll
it's not
see.
In your future.
I don't think it's in my future. I like the position where I'm currently at in being involved, trying to have some influence, but not actually being in that seat.
Well, you're definitely doing that. I think it's cool. It's like everything that you're doing with what's happening in Southern Utah?
Yeah, what's happening in Southern Utah.
And I didn't want to butcher that, so I'm glad I got it right. And then even when someone says like, well, what's going in? I think someone had put in what's going in the mall. Mm-hmm. And then people were like, Macrae. Like they were all tagging you like, dude, will you answer this question while everyone's just like speculating?
Yeah.
So it's cool, man. Like the influence is definitely there. And so it's a cool thing to have. And like even our friendship, I've even reached out a few times or even just follow what you're doing to know. And I know a lot of people are doing that. Like when they wonder what's going on in certain areas, they're looking at you. They'll go click your page. I mean, that's cool though, dude?
It's kind of crazy. It's crazy to think about because like I've been doing this for like 7-8 years now, but really it's been the last like year or two that it's really that compounding of consistency and just being in those conversations more and more and more. It does compound. Yeah. And so some of the things that like I hear that people say, it's still kind of like not even real to me, like the influence that I do have. And I still try and deflect and play it off because I'm just not like, I'm not someone that loves attention. That's why it's funny. Cause like, yes, I'm on social media a lot, but I'm so not that the person that wants to be on social media. I just know the power of it. And I know, I've got my lane that is there. But my content is a little bit unorthodox, but it's so informative that people just love it.
Yeah.
And it's been fun. So I get joked to be the mayor and certain things, and I'm like, no. But I am happy to be the nosy guy that knows, tries to know what everything going on.
Do we know where that joke started, the unofficial mayor?
I can't remember who the first person was, but it was during the last election in 21. That a few people on Facebook started saying it,
like writing you in.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I'm not interested. And then this year it's been even more, but I'm like, no.
Well, it's cool to think of how long you've been doing that because, I mean, how often do you hear people being like, man, I'm 6 months in and this thing just ain't working out?
Yeah, it happens a lot.
I mean, It's more often than not. I mean, that's why so many small businesses fail, even going all the way to the scale of businesses versus just content, right?
Yeah.
And I had no idea you were doing it for that long.
Yep.
And so when you said that, I was like, dang. I mean, because I've known you. I mean, I've known who you were for a long time, but I've like personally known you since
probably
3 years.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4 years, I would say.
And so yeah, I think that's It's probably just the algorithm on Facebook. When they see our phones in the same room, they start pushing me your content.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that, and for the longest time, it wasn't very many views, and I just tried to, and I still, I look at views because obviously that's just part of it, right? And you want to make sure that your stuff's getting out there, but it hasn't always been like views or die, right? Or like it's like, oh, I'm not getting views. Like, what can I do? I just kept doing what I was doing. I kept getting feedback, and I just kept. Like, I've just always maintained the same thing. And so for the longest time, though, I wasn't really getting many views. And I remember people would be like, man, your stuff's so good. Like, why aren't you getting more views? I'm like, really, I'm not. I don't pay for ads. I don't pay to boost it. I don't do any of that. And I've just slowly built an email list along with the social media following. And I feel like there's the consistency and just knowing that it will take time, because there are a lot of people that want to put content out. They want to start a business, and it gets hard, and they're like, oh, well, that didn't work after 3 months or after 6 months. And It's like, no, that's not how it works. And so I see it a lot of times, like in the real estate business, because people, try to get leads, and they're doing mailers, or they're doing this online lead system, and they put out one mailing, thing, and didn't get any calls. So I guess we'll go somewhere else. Like, no, It doesn't work like that. And it might work like that short term, but if you want to build a long-term business, which is what I'm trying to do, then you just have to think about long-term, and you just have to do the small things.
Well, it's almost cliche to say, but it's exactly what you've done. It's like, I'm not going into it looking for the views and the analytics of it. Like, sure, I want people to see it and make sure that your content grabs enough people that they keep watching it, right? And then, but two, it's like, it's never been a revenue stream for you directly off of that, right?
Right.
And so those two things combined, I think it makes it genuine. And then it's cool because it's something that you're curious about, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of how it started.
I love it. Yeah, that's how it started. I mean, when we started our business, I own a title company here in St. George.
Eagle Gate Title.
And everybody in title puts out stats for the most part. And I like stats. Stats are fun. I'm mostly sports stats ever since like the newspapers when I was 5 years old. Like, I love it, but I didn't want to be like everybody else. And also I just feel like that wasn't like an attention grabbing thing. And so in 2015, 16, when we started, that's when commercial real estate started really coming back to St. George after the 2008 crash. It took a while for both residential builders and commercial to really start to come back. And so as I was all over town trying to meet people in the real estate world, I kept seeing, dirt moving different places. And it excited me, as someone that's from here. I love seeing new restaurants. I love seeing new things to do. Love seeing new communities being built. And I love the growth. There's so many pros to the growth. And so that's what led ultimately to, my decision to put this in a newsletter. And that's what's really cool about it, because it's not something that I'm just like doing just because it's popular and like I have to keep doing this. It's like, no, I love doing it. I love meeting the people that are doing the developments. I love meeting the business owners that are putting their businesses in these developments. I love the city council, the mayors, the county commissioners, like a lot of the relationships that I've built. And that's what I said last week in the Rise Summit was like, my favorite thing about what I do is all the people that I get to meet and the friends that I get to meet. And if you just focus on that, that side of it rather than, and having that along with the fact that I just love doing it, it just makes it so easy, and it keeps me genuine. It keeps me authentic about it.
Well, I think in the Rise event, you hit the nail on the head when you said you're a connector, and that's what I think that's what you are. You were perfect at putting it that way. Just like you're super easy to talk to, but just you love making relationships. It seems like everyone that I've talked to has nothing but good things to say about you. So that's the best part.
Well, and I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sugary up here.
Yeah, no, and I that's the thing is like my whole life I've been a friends guy, and my parents, growing up, I grew up north of Green Valley. So I lived at the top end of Valley View, and all my friends lived down in Green Valley, and I was always on my bike going down to Green Valley. And they were a lot of times they're like, hey, like, why don't you come up here? Why don't you hang out at the house? Like, and growing up, obviously you have your no, I don't want to be here. I don't want to hang out with the family. And looking back, I'm glad what my parents did in high school, because then when I got to high school, all my friends for the most part lived in Bloomington Hills. So us that were in Green Valley, we were all going to Bloomington and Bloomington Hills. And so I was just always with my friends. And then in high school, we finished our basement. My mom and dad made it a really cool basement. So my junior and senior year, we spent a lot of nights and weekends at our house, which was fun. But why I say all that is because literally from when I was in elementary school, I just loved being around my friends and my family too, right? But and so friends and family have always been a big thing for me. That's why I wanted to stay in Southern Utah. I have a lot of friends that have moved away. And I just didn't, I did some summer sales, but my primary residence was always St. George. And I wanted that because I wanted to be around, I wanted to have a community. I wanted to have friendships. And so that's why it's always just been easy for me.
Yeah. And I want to bring one more thing up and we'll kind of segue back into that. But speaking of family, you've got another one coming.
Yeah, I do.
Another baby coming.
Yep. Just under 4 weeks.
Yeah, dude,
got number
exciting,
2 coming,
man.
Yeah.
So why St. George? Why do you want to stay here? I mean, have you been other places and thought this ain't for me? I want to be in St. George.
Yeah, I mean, St. George is the greatest place on earth.
I mean, I agree with you.
There's so much good here. You know, a great place to raise a family, relatively low crime, the best outdoors. I mean, I grew up playing football, basketball, and baseball, but obviously as we get older, those are just not, you don't play those as frequently. And so the transition to golf, pickleball, mountain biking has been a really fun transition. And you can do that all year round. There's a lot of opportunity. There is a community feel. One thing I love about the local business community is everyone is so tight knit. There's so much. If you're not connecting, if you're not going to like networking events, or if you're not like trying to be connected to the real estate community, it's going to be hard to do business here. But on the flip side, if you just put in some effort and go and you interact and you network with other people, it's such a tight knit community and everybody cares about each other. And that's one thing I love. But just in general, I just can't picture having another home base. I love traveling. I love going to Newport, in Southern California, San Diego. We go to Hawaii. I love traveling, but every time I travel somewhere, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm here for a week, but I'm so glad to be going back home.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people feel that. Even people that don't live here. A lot of people talk to me and they're like, man, I want to get back there so bad. And it's been fun to see over the last couple of years as more opportunities come here that people have been able to come back, or they work from home, or whatever the case. And I just love it here.
Yeah, I feel like every time I go somewhere else, like growing up here, we moved here when I was 6, 7 into St. George, and then we built the house in Washington and then lived in Washington. I took it all for granted. You know, like you don't know any better when you don't know any better. And so even like go drive to Vegas and back. And like when you start coming into that like Bloomington area and start seeing all the colors and and I'm just like,
there's just something about it.
I know I'm not like a, whoa, look at that rock kind of guy, but like when you make that turn coming into the like St. George Valley area, I just think like, oh my gosh, I'm finally home. Like I'm away from all the gray.
So true, man. It is so true. Especially because we have to travel to Vegas a lot of times to get, on a plane for the most part, which the airport's currently expanding. That's going to be fun to see what other types of destinations we get over the next couple of years. But that's one thing, especially when you fly back into Vegas and then you're like, man, I got to make this drive.
Yeah.
And then you make the drive, but really once you get out of the gorge and you come around that bend, it's like, there's just no better feeling than coming home to St. George. There's really not.
I couldn't imagine being like, let's say you grow up in Vegas and you're sheltered in Vegas.
Yeah.
The first time you come here, you got to be like, what the?
I know.
What's all these colors?
I know. It's so true.
And my wife's ultra outdoorsy, and so it's perfect for her. When she got her master's degree, or even before that, when she was in just the nursing program, she had talked about, hey, maybe we move out to Texas or, some other places where she can make more money and the cost of living's lower or the same. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm just a St. George guy. I think I'm going to just be here forever. Yeah, like when she was applying for nursing school, we were dating, and she applied for every place in northern Utah. And she was like, so what happens if I get into one of these schools? I'm like, deuces. Like, I'm staying here. I'm not coming up there. And like, luckily, she ended up getting into Dixie here and stayed because,
Nice.
I mean, she's the best decision I've ever made. So
That's awesome.
but yeah, I always make that joke that it would have been the worst decision I ever made was to not follow her up north if she got in. But,
Yeah.
but I don't know, dude. I love it here.
Yeah, and taking for granted that, I mean, the mountain biking trails, I wish I would have started mountain biking earlier in my life. These red mountains out here, I remember my parents, we grew up, like I said, on the corner of Valley View and Sunset up on the Black Hill.
Yeah.
Their front porch looks out over this whole Western Valley. And it's so funny because growing up, if you met someone from Ivins, it was like, wow, you're from Ivins? Like, that's clear out there. Like, that's crazy. And now it's like, it's 10 minutes. Like, it's not even this far. But then also these red mountains, it's unbelievable. Like, and I'm not like a pretty rock guy either, but at the same time, like I appreciate beauty, and there's no surprise why so many people are falling in love. They come here and just fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so passionate about the business community and about the economy and local politics. And a lot of what's happening in Southern Utah has led me into conversations in politics, in economic development, in, some of these discussions. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because if we don't continue to grow properly, then it could get really tough in some areas, right? Because I want more of my friends to move back here. I want my kids to grow up here. I want my kids' kids to grow up here. And if we don't continue to allow proper growth, then we're going to face some serious challenges down the road. And if we don't change some of the things if we don't change some of the ways that we do things in regards to housing and zoning and all different kinds of things, it could get pretty difficult, even more difficult to live here than it already is.
So basically, we need to have jobs that pay enough to be able to support someone to live here.
Yes.
I see what you're saying. So, and it's funny because I listened to some of the Rise stuff, and they talked a little bit about that. Some of the interviews, the like 435 podcast did with all the candidates. And I'll be honest, dude, I've never even thought of that. Like, I've never even been that big thinking about it. Like, I'm like, dude, I'm running my business and trying to keep my family safe. And that's about as much as I can handle.
See, and most people don't. But then, and honestly, I'm not a politics guy. Like, when it comes to presidential candidacy, senators, the national and state levels, it's really hard for me to put a lot of attention on it and energy. But locally is so important because everything that happens at the local level affects us directly. The taxes that we pay at the local level, we see the benefits. We see benefits of everything. So the people that are making decisions here, it's really important. And I didn't really grasp that until about the last year or two. And that's why I've become so passionate about it, because everything that those people choose for, they're choosing how this place continues to grow for us. And if we don't have the right people making those decisions, it could get really, as we continue to grow, it could get hard, because regardless of how we grow, the people that are wealthy enough to want to be here will be here. And if we try to clamp down on growth, or if we try to in some way take us backwards to, the 2000s or the 90s or whatever, it could just get really, really hard. And the people that can afford it will continue to move here. And
our kids and grandkids won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a Chamber of Commerce, man. Tell me a little bit about that, why it's positive. Who was the guy that moved to Salt Lake?
Don Willie.
So he had just messaged me one day, I think when I was probably a year into the Safe Store, and was just like, hey, I'm Chamber of Commerce, if there's anything we can help you with. And so that's really my only exposure to the Chamber of Commerce, and then the Rise event that you guys just did. And so tell me, dude, why would someone join that? Why is it positive? What are some of the workshops that you can learn from? Just whatever you feel like you need to share.
Yeah, so just for my history, and what's funny is my thought of the Chamber of Commerce's in general, not St. George's, but just in general. When I was coming up I got into the business world in 2013, 14, 15. I joined a BNI group. I knew that networking was going to be important in St. George because if you don't know anybody, then it's really tough to do business, obviously. But I remember hearing about the chamber as well. And I was like, and I went to a meeting. This was back in like 2015. And again, nothing against that chamber or like our St. George chamber, but just in general, I felt like the chamber had like an archaic, old mentality. And it was like, oh, well, the chamber is like maybe only for people that have been in business a long time. And it just didn't feel like, because I went to a chamber of commerce here and as well as in California when I was working for Vivint. I was doing solar. And anyway, I just felt like it's not for me. So Don Willie is actually the one that flipped the script on me. He really revolutionized our Chamber of Commerce here. He innovated a lot of ways, digitally on social media and with some of the workshops and with some of the things. Really, I felt like I can't remember when he got in, but I felt like, okay, like this Chamber of Commerce is something that I want to be a part of. And so in 2020, I think it was maybe 21. I think it was 21. He asked me to be on the chamber or the Chamber of Commerce board of directors. And it really went from me not really having much involvement at all with the chamber to being on the board of directors. And I mean, I was always a member, but I wasn't like super, super active in it just because I was in BNI, I was in Allies, which is another group. And I just was, I was spread pretty thin. And it changed for me. And really, the value of the Chamber of Commerce is, I can't remember how many businesses we have. I think it's around 800 or 900. But the wealth of people that you can connect with through the chamber is huge. All the events that they put on this morning, they had an Eggs and Issues. They have, I think it's once a month, where they have someone come in and present. This morning was the city council forum, so they were talking about how the city council envisions the business community going forward. But then they have different lunches, they have the Rise Summit, they have all these different kinds of events where if you are just involved and you go to these, like the people that you can meet and the networking that can happen is super valuable, and especially in a small town like this. Like I said, if you don't know people, it's going to be very hard to do business. But if you start to just know people, that alone is a value of itself. But then all the different workshops, whether it's social media marketing or whether it's accounting or, if you're especially if you're just starting a business and you don't really have someone to lean on, they just have so many resources there that can help you to launch a company, that can help you to manage your company. So it's a great place, a lot of great people. It's been a fun. I think this is going into my third year being on the board of directors, and it's been fun.
So to be a part of it, what do? You just sign
pay
up,
a membership. You just pay a membership that, depending on the size of your company, it's really not, it's like a couple $100 a year. And then you just get access to, you go to all the lunches, breakfasts, and they have so many events. I don't know how Sean and the staff keep up with all the different events that they have, but they do a great job. Washington's also got a Chamber of Commerce as well as Hurricane. And between the three of those, I think it's just a really good driving force of our business community. They're just advocates for the business community.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool that, like my thought is, I grew up here, so I'm just trying to think of out of the box different ways. Someone brand new starting a business, that gives them someone to lean on. It gives them the network. Like me and you, we've been here. Our families have been here. So to me, I'm like, well, I kind of have a network, but that would just
totally,
it's just like the podcast though. Starting the podcast is 10 times to my network. So getting into that Chamber of Commerce and those other groups will just grow your network even more. So who would not want to do that? Right.
And the perfect example of just networking in general, whether it's Chamber of Commerce or anything. I know a group of guys, Surge Development, they just moved here, I think back in like March or April. Kyle McDonald and Paul, it's a group that they do multifamily development in the South and in Texas. They moved their headquarters down here from Salt Lake, from Provo to here. And I will tell you that they are more networked than probably 95% of this town because of the efforts that they've put in. Like they know so many people. They've been here for like 4 or 5 months. And yes, they had some family members that were in the community already, but a lot of people have that. A lot of people move here because they have family here. But then if you don't put effort into meeting people, you just probably going to spin your wheels in business. Yeah. But if you go out and want to meet people, you want to get involved with the chamber or with allies or with a BNI or it doesn't have to be a networking organization. If you just go out and you want to meet people, the sky's the limit on what you're able to do. And those guys are just I feel like a testimonial of guys that wanted to ingrain themselves in the community and get to know the community, and they've done a fantastic job at it. So
that's cool. The last thing I want to kind of touch on is this tech school that we have going in, this high school thing. I've been very open about being critical about public school. Like this last year, when I was doing my goals at the beginning of the year, I'd come up with a couple things, and one of them I thought, like, what do I complain a lot about? Like, it's like voting. Like, I feel like if you don't vote at any level, if you don't vote, you can't complain.
It's true.
And so that's a good point. It was kind of the same thing for me. I'm like, what am I complaining about, and what's something that I could go do and try and help? And then I'm like, then I can or can't complain, but at least I'm trying to do something about it. And so I was thinking about schools a lot for whatever reason. And I thought, you know what, why don't I try to go speak in some schools? And so that's it. I've talked about it a lot recently, but so my goal was 12 classes throughout the year. And I called a couple old teachers that I had, and one of them was a vice principal at Crimson Cliffs. And she got me into the business teacher, and I ended up like getting plugged into their DECA club. And
nice.
And so this
I remember that.
Yeah, we raised money for them and stuff, right? And so now I've spoke there and Pineview, where I went to school. And I don't know, it's just like this cool thing that I kind of gotten into. And so I was critical about high schools and whatnot. So I thought, what can I do? And I went and talked to Miss Martineau, who was one of my teachers that was the vice there, and now she's in Hurricane. And she showed me like all the tech stuff that they have over at Crimson, and they have like a whole building of it. Oh, yeah. And so we walked through it all, and I thought like, man, like I just didn't know you guys were even doing any of it, because there was like auto tech and woodworking when I was there, right? And in Pineview. And now they have like welding and screen printing and all this other stuff. And then she was like, have you heard of the tech school that's going in? And I was like, I don't know anything about it. And so she kind of started telling me about it. But I know that you kind of went and did an interview. Yeah. So tell me about it. What did you learn? Do you think it's cool? Is it positive? Is it negative? What do you think?
No, it's absolutely positive. So yes, I understand the criticism that the public school system gets, especially on a national level, right? You know, we're so blessed to live here in St. George. This is another reason. I know a lot of people in the school district. My dad was a teacher here for 35 years. He was a coach. He was at Dixie Middle School, Snow Canyon Middle School, Dixie High School. He's honestly one of the main reasons why it's so easy for me to build a network, because half the town is like, oh, who's your dad? Coach Heppler. Oh, yeah, your dad. I've got like just story after story, right?
Sure.
And he, anyway, so because of that, I had a lot of friendships with other teachers growing up, and like Larry Bergeson was my principal, who ended up becoming the superintendent. Craig Hammer is one of my best friends' dads that was also my principal, was assistant superintendent, been involved with the school district for a long time. G-Dog, Dave Gardner, who was the one that I interviewed out at the CT High School. Another just great example of just people that I personally know that I would trust my kids with, right? Now, on a national level, and the school system in general, universities, there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of things that happen in public schools that I understand why they get criticism for it. Especially the last couple of years with a lot of the topics, right, that I don't necessarily want to get into, But you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. There's a lot of drama in schools that it's just, to me, it's just like, why can't we just, I don't know, why do we have to bring in some of these things, right? But here in Southern Utah, Washington County School District, I personally think does a fantastic job at trying to build a pipeline of kids, whether it is tech or there's a couple, I mean, and tech is way more than just like your software tech. I mean, biotech and aerospace tech and like 3D printing, all different kinds. I mean, our world is dominated by technology, whether we like it or not. All the opportunities going forward in some fashion will require tech. Now, I'm not talking Facebook and Amazon and Google. I'm talking even just the small technologies, right? And so I sometimes hear the criticism that it gets, and I'm like, you know what? I have a pretty positive outlook on the school district, and this CT high school is one of the big accomplishments that they have. But in general, I personally feel like the school district does a really good job of keeping school, and also really figuring out how to best be of value to the kids. Now, I know they're not perfect. I know there's situations, but overall, it's hard being a teacher in 2023.
Sure.
It's hard being a principal in 2023. My dad, like, I could go into that. It's hard. And so, anyway, that's a long story short of, I think there's a lot of positives in public school. Now, going to the CT high school. So this is kind of the culmination of a lot of efforts that have been happening in the school district that have been tied to the university as well. Now, the university is also another topic, Dixie State to Utah Tech, and we have that whole topic as well. But it's all been aligned, from what I've seen, from the school district to the university over a very long period of time in creating this pipeline where kids can start when they're in kindergarten, learning how to do certain types of coding and different things. We have Vista School out here that has if you haven't been out to this elementary school, full on maker space, basically Innovation Plaza. Have you been to Innovation Plaza University? So a maker space, 3D printing, robotics, all kinds of stuff.
In elementary school?
Wow, I
didn't know that.
In Vista. So, Vista is 7th, 6th grade. I can't remember where it starts. Long story short is they have robotics, engineering, all that kind of stuff out here at this school. There's different, all the different the languages that are being taught in some of the elementary schools. You got your Chinese immersion, your Spanish immersion, some of these others. I really think there's a lot of good efforts. And the high school level, like you saw at Crimson, some of the stuff that they have, I think it's been this really big effort to get kids to have the best educated kids come through the local school district to then go to the university and get a lot of the STEM tech programs that are happening at the university. And that's why it's so important that we build a local business community and we help the tech community here locally, because if we create all these brilliant kids and then they graduate the university and they can't stay here because there's no jobs, we're just the kids are our biggest export narrative that's always been a thing here. Will just continue to happen, and it'll be more brilliant kids because we are now able to teach them from when they're super young all the way through. So this CT high school was modeled after a school in Houston that had been built out there, and basically what it is. So you got Dixie Tech that's up on Tech Ridge, that is a school where basically there's different set curriculums where if you want to be an electrician, or if you want to go into nursing, or if you want to be a diesel mechanic, or if you want to, there's set programs. You can electrician, HVAC, a lot of different things, right? And it's an alternative to the university where you go in and you get a general degree or whatever. So what they've done is they've created this high school that's essentially that same model where they have 8 different curriculums. There's business and entrepreneurship, which would have been amazing I would have loved that, right?
I've been all over that.
Marketing, because one of my gripes with the school system is they don't teach you about, there's not really, and now I've actually learned there's more entrepreneurship classes. There's an internship program now with the Washington School District that's really cool, and there's a lot of things. But back then, it was pretty just basic, right? It was just your basic language arts, your basic math, your basic science. And so anyway, there's that. There's a health, nursing, whatnot, different technologies, and it's for kids. You have to apply, and you have to apply to get in. I think there's a 700 or 800 students cap, and it's basically just a program where you're focused on what you want to become down the road. Now, not every kid that's in high school is going to want that. Not every kid is going to know what they want to do, but there is a good population, even if it's just business and entrepreneurship. I would love for my kid to go and just learn mostly that. They're still going to have their other classes, but it's a really cool school that is just more focused for kids that want to just accelerate their education, right?
So does that like 8th, 9th grade? You're starting to prepare that?
Yeah. So it's a 9th through 12th. I wish I had more of it's either 9th through 12th or 10th through 12th.
Yeah, I kind of dropped this on you. Just expected you to be the expert.
Well, and I know some, but I don't have it off the top of my head. CT High School.
And then are they going there all day? Do they just have a couple classes? So they're still learning all the basic and then a focus on that?
Yeah. So the way that it works is your curriculum is like heavily on, let's say, business and entrepreneurship. But you still get your science and you still get your language arts in some fashion. I actually talked to someone as a kid there that they hated language arts their whole life.
That's me.
And what's funny is this kid, they still had a language arts class, but in some way it was tailored to their curriculum. Huh. And it actually has now become their favorite class, funny enough.
It's just...
And so I don't know that it's the other one is tourism and hospitality. I think is really cool, especially here. That is one of the curriculums. There's business marketing and entrepreneurship, construction and architecture, which I think is really cool too, because construction, I think we're going to lack that as we continue to go forward, because most kids want to grow up and be in tech. And I feel like a lot of the trades and a lot of construction, there's going to be more opportunity in that because less people want to do that, right? Sure. And so if we can get kids, if they start younger with that, I think is incredible. Culinary arts, tourism and hospitality, early childhood development and teaching as a profession, engineering, technology and robotics, graphic design, health science, and then information technology and cybersecurity. But this is their school. It's not like a half-day thing where they're at Crimson for half day and then they're here. This is their school. The cool thing is that this school doesn't have sports, but if the kid lives in Crimson High boundaries, he can play for Crimson any of the sports that he or she wants, but they go to school at the CT High School.
That is nice. That was my next question.
That is their school. It's not like a concurrent enrollment or extracurricular activities. They're at that school all day long. So and the school's amazing. If you want to take a tour of it, I can connect you to Dave Gardner.
Yeah, I'd love to take. When I saw you there, I was like, because I had just talked to Renee Martineau about it, but and I thought, man, I got to get to know more about that. I was actually just going to text you, but then
it's cool.
Life happened.
Yeah, and I think that'll just elevate, the kids that end up, maybe they do want to go to Utah Tech and get and further their, whether it's business or whether it's health or whether it's any of the technologies. And I think it's just going to create even more brilliant kids, right?
Now, are they going to if you don't know this, that's fine, but are they going to graduate with some kind of college credit? Is there, what's
that part? I don't know. I think it's still just like in the regular high schools, you can go do concurrent enrollment, you can take college classes. I assume that it's going to be the same thing where they'll still get their high school diploma just like any other kid. And then if they want to do the concurrent enrollment at the university, they still can.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
But yeah, it's fantastic. There's a lot of good people in the school district. I am a fan. I think I understand the concerns, and a lot of times, like, I feel for the teachers. I feel mostly because my dad was a teacher growing up, and I know what they go through. And I have heard stories now that I'm like, man, if I was a teacher in today's world, and the parents that you have to deal with, there's
kind of
just
the problem.
there's no accountability anymore.
Right.
Kids can do whatever they want. And when they know that, they react or they act a certain way. And if a teacher reacts in any way, in a negative way, they have the parents down their throat wondering, why is my kid failing? Why is it? There's just no accountability.
Right.
And so they're entitled and whatnot. And I'm not saying that for all kids as a generality, but I think it's just would be so hard to be an administrator or a teacher in today's world.
No, I agree.
So,
Multiple administrators in different high schools that I've talked to, that's kind of the general consensus. Like when I Crimson or Pineview or the other ones I've been in, when I've walked in, I'm just like, dude, you guys let these kids dress like this?
Oh,
like that was my first thing when I walked in. And
dress code's crazy.
Well, there isn't one.
I know.
And so I went and I've talked, like I said, at multiple schools, and that's kind of the answer is, hey man, like if we try to address the problem and go to the parents don't care.
Nope.
The parents are buying them the clothes, right? So they're like, and I think back of when I went to Desert Hills the first year it was there, and we had uniforms. Like we had to wear uniforms the first year.
Did you really?
Yeah. So we were the first 6th grade class to go into Desert Hills.
Wow.
Intermediate, right? And we had uniforms the whole first year, and then they went away with it. But it just kind of made me laugh. And I should back up my statement of saying I'm critical of the school system nationally. Yeah. And I think we're definitely in a bubble in St. George. For sure. And
totally.
I don't want anyone to take that super negative, but at the same time, if I had to make the decision today, I'm on record multiple times of saying I'm probably going to homeschool my kid. Mm-hmm. So I've also said that. I still back that up today.
For sure.
But being in the schools have kind of given me another, and that was kind of
different lens.
That was part of my thing is like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not in it. I don't know everything. So who am I to sit here and complain about it?
Right.
So that was part of my going and speaking.
Totally. Yeah. And I understand the concerns, and I understand there's a lot of people that do homeschool, private school, different things that like there's a bunch of alternative school options that I think are great. And just like with the university, I didn't get my degree, and I think there's a lot of professions in this world that you absolutely do not need a university. There are others that I have friends that are only in the position they're in because of the degree that they got that allowed them to be in that profession. So I understand the need for some, and that's why, based on the needs and based on how you feel you want your kid to be raised, there's a lot of different options.
Yeah.
And I just think that we definitely are in a bubble is in regards to our school district and what they provide for the kids, because it's pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah, and I would agree. Being in the school more, I would agree with that. And also, like, I guess for now, like at least I'd feel like my kid's being loved and taken care of here.
Yeah,
and that would be part of my issue with other places is
for sure.
I'll just leave it at that. But I think here, at least I would feel safe that my kid's there.
Yeah.
And
the cool thing is, and this is what circles back to it, having a community around you, knowing your neighbors, having friends and family. Everyone is so connected here if you want to be. Right. And I know that whatever I end up doing with my kids, I have a 19-month-old and then a soon to be newborn. So I don't know what 3 years from now, 2 years from now, who knows what our decision is going to be when they enter. But what I do know is that I have people that I personally know, I trust them, they're either friends or family, and I know whatever school that I end up in is going to largely be because of the people that I know. And that's the value of having a community. And that circles us back to the very beginning, talking about why I love St. George and why I love a town like this where everyone truly cares about each other for the most part. Like there's so many good people here, whether it's in business, it's in the different faiths, it's in the school district, there are so many good people here trying to make this, and the cities, there's so many good people here trying to continue to make this place the best place to be.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you, dude.
So yeah,
I think we're hitting time though. So, dude,
I'm good for whatever.
Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Well, no, I'm saying, yeah, if you're good, I'm good.
Okay, well, I just think we just wrapped it right back to the start. So
yeah, no, I thought it was great.
I think the biggest things we're really focusing on with the episode is like there needs to be a close eye on how St. George grows. And I think that it's funny, dude, because like when you post stuff, I'm like, okay, that's what Macrae said. I believe it. Like when you put stuff out there, I'm just like, okay, that's what we're doing now. And I have a few people like that and it's more just lack of focus for myself, but I'm like, there's only so much time in a day.
There is. I know. Trust me. And it's gotten, I mean, this election season, I've put a lot of time and effort into things that it's time consuming, but I feel like it's so important. And I feel like there are a lot of people that want to be involved or that want to know it, but it is also hard to know where to go for, where to go for information or what to, what opinion to have. And so I feel like if I can just help give a perspective from my side of things, that it can help people like you that are also super busy, and that's just not in your lane, right? This is just really, it's really part of my lane. It's become part of my lane because of the videos that I do put out and the cities and the county that I work with and that I interact with. So that's why I feel like it's almost like I don't want to say responsibility, because it's not like I want to put myself on this like authoritative pedestal, but because of the amount of people that do reach out to me and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Hey, like who should we be voting here? Or I just had so much of that I was like, I might as well just put it out there. And wife didn't totally love it, but I'm like, listen.
Well, it's funny, dude, because like I'm not a big reader, and so when someone, like even with text, like if someone sends me a long text, there's a pretty good chance I'm not reading it. And like Facebook posts are the same. Yeah. And so, but when I saw yours, I went through and read the whole thing. And so it's funny because there's those certain people that you allow take your time because you trust them, right?
Well, I appreciate that.
And that's that connector part of you.
Yeah.
I got a perfect way to wrap this up. So I know that you're in the business world heavy. You're a huge foodie.
Yeah.
So tell me, dude, top places to eat in St. George. I know you've been asked it before. So maybe top places, maybe your favorite thing to eat at that place and why, and then we'll wrap it up.
Man, I actually was just telling someone a couple weeks ago, they're like, hey, why don't you put out like a top 10 food list? And I'm like, the thing about what I do is I'm friends with so many of the restaurants that I don't, like, I would feel bad almost like leaving someone off that.
Or they're 4 instead of 3.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm friends with them and I list this top 10 and they're not on the top 10 and they're like, wait, what? Like, why? And so anyway, it's hard for me.
So you don't have to do like number 1. Just give me favorites.
So, and it really depends on, basically what I'll share is like where I mostly just frequent, right? Which is, one of them is Papa's Got Jerk.
Okay, haven't tried it yet.
You need to. It's a Jamaican place. But jerk chicken with Jamaican rice and peas and the cabbage and carrots, or the baked mac and cheese pie. It's incredible. Plantains. It's amazing. It's over in the shops at Zion next to Taco Plaza.
Okay.
Which those are also, Taco Plaza is great, as well as Berries and Cream and Green Iguana. That whole little strip right there.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. That's one that I frequent a lot. Mostly, I love how clean it is. I don't feel like, I just feel good after, and it's just a clean, healthy night, like really good meal. Another one is Picarica barbecue, which I am a part of, so there's some bias there, but I love barbecue and love the atmosphere in there. I love, the brisket is incredible. Just had the pork belly tacos for the first time that are amazing, right up there with the brisket. The mac and cheese, all the different sides, beans and rice.
Now, really how do they do it there? Because I've had a few people say they've gone and like a certain thing is sold out. Well, so they only cook because they have to smoke it and they cook it all right there.
It's a 24-hour operation, and basically they don't preserve meat like to the next day. Everything you're eating is coming off that smoker that morning.
Okay,
and that's part of the quality of it. Like they're not preserving food for later, right? And so that's one thing. It doesn't happen as often anymore, although they do sell out at night. Like if you go during lunchtime, you're pretty much guaranteed to have whatever is there. If you go at dinner time, just like with any Texan like barbecue restaurant, there's a good chance that there's something that's going to be sold out. But it really just depends on the demand, and that's what's the hard about running a barbecue restaurant is
I
like
was just gonna say, like, how do you ever gauge that?
Yeah, you have to be able to gauge the demand, and then but sometimes you just can't really control that, right? And so there are times where they sell out, but it mostly happened in the beginning when they were just trying to figure out that demand.
Okay.
Now it's become a little bit better as far as gauging it, but late at night, especially on the weekends, like Friday, Saturday. They usually sell out.
Like you're rolling the dice.
Yeah.
If you're going to go in late on a Saturday.
Right. Yeah. A couple others are like street eats on Sunset Boulevard, burgers and tacos. Corey runs a great operation there. The late night burger is my favorite. I call it the best burger in town.
Nice.
Gaia's is a vegan restaurant.
It's called what?
Gaia's Garden Cafe is another good one. Favorite of mine. They got the best acai bowl in St. George. It's actually named after me. It's called the Cray Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to get it literally. I tried a vegan phase of my life, and I would get it pretty much every single day when they were a food truck, and then they turned it into a actual store. And so they're like, hey, we should just name, because I had this special way of doing my acai bowl. Anyway, it's the best in town, but they've got different like burritos and salads, and it's a coffee shop too, so they got all different kinds of drinks.
Where's that at?
That's on corner of 700 South and like 100 200 West, down by Arby's.
Okay.
Like behind Arby's. Another good one.
Yeah, vegan's not really my jam, but it's kind of funny with our fantasy football league with all my high school buddies. We're trying to do like a loser punishment, and one of them was you had to be vegan until the draft the next year.
Dude, it's hard. It is super hard. Yeah, and then I mean, there's so many others too. Cairo's and Farmstead are like Farmstead's a bakery. Yep. That's like the staple in downtown St. George. So like that's where I get a lot of my sweets, but they also have a pizza. Their pizza is phenomenal. Okay. They just started doing it a couple months ago. Cairo's is like Mediterranean, chicken, steak, lamb, like bowls or pita bowls. They have some of the best fries in town. That's also downtown. Chris Connors is like an incredible asset for the restaurant community here. And then, I mean, there's some others, but I could keep going, but yeah.
Well, that'll give a good list for people to go try.
Yeah.
Go get the Cray Bowl.
Those are all my favorites. And those are all, local restaurants. That's what I love mostly like about downtown is like, there's no chains downtown.
Right.
The other one downtown that's really good Mexican there's two of them, Cafe Sabor and Angelica's, both great options. Ancestor Square is always fun. You know, Benja's and George's and Poston Pizza Factory.
Man, there's a lot of places to eat
Painted
here
Pony.
like that, huh?
Yeah. And all of downtown is local. I love it. Like there's not a single chain. Like Pizza Pasta Factory is the only like chain when it's not really, there's a few up north and in Cedar, right? But as far as like national chains, there's really not. That's what I love.
Purpose?
I think I don't know if it's like an on purpose thing or if it's just
worked out that way.
It's just worked out that way. And that's what I love. I love Capoletti's is downtown. That's also amazing. There's some others, but yeah.
Okay.
I love food. Actually, I it's not official yet. At the end of this month, I'm actually taking over the STG Eats Instagram account.
Are you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So Michelle's moving to Boise, and so me and my assistant Ryan, she's gonna help me. We're taking over that account because I am
awesome.
Yeah, she is.
I met her the other day.
She's incredible. She helps me so much, and so we'll be taking that over at the end of the month, and pretty stoked because I'm a huge foodie.
Nice.
So
okay. So everyone go follow Macrae. What are you most active on, or are you active?
Instagram,
like personally.
Instagram. I mean, I'm active on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, but so any of those three.
Yeah.
And then I host all my videos on YouTube. You can subscribe to my email list where I put out the newsletter and the videos through email at macraeheppler.com. You can subscribe there. So
awesome.
But yeah, I'm active. I'll respond to DMs, and I'm always happy to help connect anybody in any way that I can.
You know what I love about you, dude, is it's it's unique that a business owner would come in here and talk for an hour and not mention their business one time.
Well, I did say,
well, I'm the one that said Eagle Gate title. But that's what's cool about you though, is like, there's all these connections everywhere. And it's like, hey man, some of these people are going to come in and do their title work with us too.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's who you are though.
The more you give, the more you're going to get back in return. And that's just how I've always lived. And I know that.
Yeah, you're evidence of that.
I know that if I keep putting good out in the world and being a source of value and information and connection of others, it's just going to come right back.
Yeah, I love that. And that's true, dude. I know that. It's like Justin Prince was the first person that I ever like 100% felt like when he was like, dude, I just want to add value. And I'm like, so cliche when he told me that. And then when I really like spent some time with him, I'm like, oh, dude, this guy really just wants people to succeed.
Oh, yeah.
And like, that's how you're the same way. I feel the same way with you. So there's no like selfishness with you. You just want to get to know people and have relationships.
That's what life's all about, man.
Yeah. All right, dude, we'll wrap it up. Let you get out of here.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for spending some time with us. Episode 113. Go like, share, follow Macrae, title stuff, hook up with him, and go try the Cray Bowl. All right, guys. See you next week.